Welcome to the Infotainment Sports Fantasy Football Podcast. Ben and Marcus here today reviewing Week 1. Starting off with Week 1, the very first game was Ravens-Chiefs. The Chiefs were able to win by a shoe size, likely not able to stay in the end zone. Andrews was quiet pretty much the whole game. That was a big panic moment for everybody, but also for people who watched the tape and looked at it. He was double, triple cover the whole time. Likely did perform well, though. I think he will be a part of the offense this year, but I'm not freaking out about him as much as other people are. A lot of people are like, he's the number one waiver wire ad, like for sure. And I don't know. Do you think that he's really worth that? I don't know.
I would say yes, but I mean, kind of depends on what the teams look like. Obviously, like I'm in my couple of two of my super deep dynasties where we have the 53 man rosters and the full IDP and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just giving you context. We do 7 rounds of rookie draft, so I offered up a 3rd round pick in both leagues for him. To add some depth. We don't start tight end specific, but I think he's going to be a part of. I heard they were talking about that in the preseason and training camp, that he's going to be kind of a fixture of the offense because their receivers, like outside of Zay Flowers, like Rashad Bateman had a pretty good catch, but outside of like that, they haven't. Nelson Aguilar's out there missing blocks and stuff on huge downs and stuff. So, I like Isaiah Likely, but yeah, I mean, in redrafts and stuff, I wouldn't necessarily. You said, I think Andrews is going to be a part of it, but I do think Likely's going to have a good season. So I think he'll be even a flex play. Like, almost look at him as a wide receiver in that offense. I think, and from what you saw too, Mark Andrews, he was getting double teamed, triple teamed. He was blocking a lot too, right? Because they needed help blocking.
I think they realized that he was getting triple teamed and just used him as a decoy and just went to Likely. And the weird thing is Zay Flowers had a lot of single coverage because of that, but they just kind of schemed him screen passes and stuff. They didn't really throw it deep much, which was kind of annoying. Like his stat line was okay, but not a lot of yards. So Lamar was crazy, though. He had 273 passing yards. He had 122 rushing yards. It was just insane. He kind of just took things over by himself. Looks to be really good this year. We'll see against other teams. Xavier Worthy, super fast, 2 touchdowns on 3 touches. I mean, it looks like it's going to work. Just a weapon in that offense. We'll see if there's consistency or more targets and stuff, but obviously when he touches the ball, he's dangerous. Definitely looks tiny, though. He looks very small.
Yeah.
The one thing I was really happy about was me being big in on Rashee Rice. He had 33% of the target share for the Chiefs.
I've got him in a league.
Yeah, he had 9 targets, 7 catches, 100 yards. 78 of those were after the catch. So he was just a quick hit slant, and then he runs with it super well. And that's exactly what I was seeing last year at the end of the year and in the playoffs. That's what got me so excited about him. It was just working so well, and no one was stopping it. So him and Kelsey over the middle are going to be dangerous. So I was happy to see Rice play so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought too. I don't know if you're getting to the Ravens backfield at all, but I thought it was pretty interesting how much we didn't see Derrick Henry. Kind of, I saw a lot of Derrick Henry on the sideline, which I guess he's. I don't know. I don't know why I was surprised. I don't know if we should have been, but Justice Hill stock up a little bit, especially in PPR formats.
Yeah, there were reports coming out of camp that Hill was getting more work, and I think that was kind of verified. I think different game scripts Henry will do fine. Obviously, they were trailing and putting Hill in, but
bad weather games.
Yeah, I think definitely Hill is someone to keep an eye on, and I think he will get playing time going forward. So I think that kind of just solidified that sentiment. That's all I had for that game, unless you want to bring anything else up.
No, didn't have anything in there. I guess
cool.
Chiefs is still the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
Mahomes still throws a pick and still doesn't matter.
Yeah, I have Mahomes in redraft and didn't do me so well, but there's a lot of low scores and a lot of not great fantasy output, so I'll just let it sit for a while. The next game of the week was Eagles beat the Packers 34-29. You're an Eagles fan, I'm a Packers fan. That was kind of a crazy game.
That was wild.
For many reasons. We were talking a little bit about it with Hurts interceptions look pretty bad, but overall he had a good stat line. And then Love was okay, kind of as expected. There was a ton of points in the game. Do you want to talk quarterbacks? I have some other notes about other players, but not a bunch about quarterbacks.
Yeah, I was gonna just say as an Eagles fan, I was definitely like those first couple of drives for us on offense. I was like
Yeah,
bad. That first interception was pretty terrible.
that was.
The second interception that he threw, I will say it was still terrible decision making. But if you go and watch the film from like the all 22, you can see what he saw. But he if he was going to throw that ball, he had to throw it way sooner than what he actually threw it. And he came out today at a press conference and he said, "Yeah, that was the play calls. It wasn't the play calls. That was all on me. Like those were very bad decisions." So I think he's going to be fine. It's kind of funny because he threw one interception all of training camp, and all of the Eagles beat writers were talking all about all of the interceptions he wasn't throwing, and then he comes out and makes a couple. Yeah. And then for the Eagles, the center Jason Kelce looked a little missed there to start, but then again, looking at more all 22 stuff, Cam Jurgens, like once they settle in, he kind of does look like a little Jason Kelce out there. He's running around on poles and stuff and running out in front of Saquon. But yeah, I'm curious to see more how the tush push kind of works itself out because like it didn't look very good.
Yeah.
And I'll be curious to see what goes on with that. But also when you got 26 back there, hand it off.
Yeah, that's gonna open things up for them like crazy.
Yeah. But that was all I had on the Jalen Hurts. My Jalen Hurts thought. I thought.
Nice. Yeah.
I guess last 8-minute drive that you did not like because it took forever. I thought he made some really big throws, and then that run where he got hit and still gained like 6 more yards to get the first down. I was like, that's the Jalen I'm trying to see. Like that felt like Super Bowl year Jalen Hurts. So that felt pretty good, and that makes those interceptions like fix those. And I mean, we scored 34 with 3 turnovers. It's pretty. I feel pretty good.
Yep. Yeah, Packers have a decent defense too. I mean, obviously didn't play well week 1, but
slippery though.
Defense. Yeah,
slippery out there.
Yes,
slippery for everybody though.
Yeah. Yeah, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith both look good. Both look like what you expect out of them. Wide receivers in the Packers end, Reed look explosive. Obviously with the touchdowns and whatnot, but Dobbs had the highest targets, which is kind of what I was predicting coming into the season. Watson was not used very much at all, but he will be in the future. But that's kind of how I saw it working out. Is they're going to scheme for Reed, and Dobbs is going to be like the main one target on most of the passes. So I thought that was interesting. And you mentioned 26 Barkley. He over 100 yards, 3 touchdowns. Just crazy. He had 3 touchdowns. Giants had 0 touchdowns. So Giants fans have just got to be angry.
Punch in the air. They're punch in the air.
Yeah. Just talking about how he's not worth that money, and he just looks so good. Like he opens up so much for the offense. I think. In week 1, they proved he is worth the money.
My first rushing touchdown that he had, where he just like froze Quay Walker. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Quay is solid too. So
yeah. I mean, he just like dropped a good linebacker, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
Yeah. So that leads me into the Giants, who I said had 0 touchdowns against the Vikings at home, lost 28-6, which was crazy. The Giants just looked so bad. The fans are calling for Daniel Jones' head. Sam Darnold looked good, completed his first 12 passes, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. So he fit well in the offense, kind of like we were hoping. You were certainly hoping. With Kevin O'Connell there, he just looks like a solid quarterback. He was able to get Jefferson 59 yards and a touchdown. Aaron Jones looked good, 94 and a touchdown. Daniel Jones was 22 of 42, 186 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks. Singletary, 10 rushes, 37 yards. Neighbors had 5 catches for 66 yards. It actually looked pretty good for a rookie debut, especially considering how Daniel Jones did. So
yeah. What did Daniel Jones had like negative fantasy points, and Malik Neighbors still caught a football?
Yep. Yeah, Jones had a 44 quarterback rating. On the Vikings side also, Ty Chandler got 8 carries. So I mean he's involved, which is something to note. That's pretty much it for that one. You got anything else for that game?
I think Jordan Addison got hurt.
Well, yep.
So I think
Is there news
Jalen.
on it yet, or I don't know?
I think he was limited today or didn't practice. I can't really remember, but it was his other ankle. It wasn't the same ankle he hurt in training camp. So
Yikes.
whatever that's worth. But I don't know. I mean, it's Justin Jefferson's offense, and I don't know.
Yeah.
They play San Fran this weekend, so I don't know like if like Jalen Naylor's worth a start if
The defense, yeah.
Addison misses. But
Sure.
yeah, I think that was about it.
Okay. Next game I have is Carolina, New Orleans. Carolina got 10 points. New Orleans got 47. Yeah, Saints were 3.5-point favorites coming to that game. They won by 37. That was just insane.
Yeah.
I mean, over-under was 41.5. The Saints covered that by themselves. Panthers didn't even contribute.
Yeah.
Olave was so quiet, which made me insanely upset because there's so many points. He had 2 targets, 2 catches, 11 yards. So he caught his targets, but they just didn't need it, I think, is what I'm hopeful for.
Yeah.
But the other thing I do want to note is what I was hoping for this year is for him to be in motion a lot more, and he was. He was actually in motion most of the game. I think it was like 80% of the snaps or something. They had motion. He was involved in it a lot.
Nice.
So I think that'll help scheme him open. So I'm still holding out hope, but yeah, I said Olave was one of my guys this year, and that was not a good week 1 showing. Bryce Young, horrible. 13 of 30, 161 yards, 2 picks, no touchdowns. Carr had 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was like one of the top scoring quarterbacks in the week. I mean, I'm just going to kind of throw this in the bin and chalk it up to the Panthers just being so bad.
Yeah, I really hope they're not that bad all year. Please, I just want to see. I mean, I just cheer. I want people's success, and it's like I just want Bryce Young. Like I don't want him to just fizzle out because he went to a terrible place in Carolina, and it's just like he was set up for failure from the start. Because I feel like you see that a lot with quarterbacks. Sometimes I don't feel like quarterbacks get almost like a fair opportunity.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Especially with Darnold is a good example of that.
Darnold.
He's in a good situation now, and so far looks good.
Yeah. Baker Mayfield. Think about that. The Browns could really use a quarterback like Baker Mayfield right now, couldn't they?
I have a note. Yeah. In 2022, the Panthers had Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, who both played really well this week, and Bryce Young was horrible. They had both of them on the roster, and then after that, during that season, they decided to let both of them go, and they traded Caleb Williams and a first-round pick and DJ Moore to get Bryce Young.
Yeah, that's a tough look.
It's
a tough look.
It does not look good at all. I mean, because Baker's gone on looked really good too, and Darnold looks like he can fit in the right place.
Yeah.
So I kind of looked into that a little bit and I thought that was insane.
That is wild. Yeah.
Not much else in that blowout. Next is Miami Jacksonville. Jacksonville was leading for a while here. They were kind of controlling the game. That was a good one. Yeah, it was a good game. And then that's kind of how I feel like Jacksonville and Miami do that all the time. Like there's just like I don't know. I feel when I was watching, I was like, Miami's just gonna like come back. They're gonna like hit a big play, and they're gonna come back in this game, and that's kind of what happened. I think that might have happened last year, the year before, or something. But I know when it was unfolding, I was like, this is probably what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
it just feels like it always happens with them.
Yeah. I had that game on. I had the quad box on YouTube TV. Shout out YouTube TV. I had that game on one of the boxes, and that was And my cousin is a Jaguars fan, so like I've kind of kept up with the Jaguars a little bit, and it's just like it's like kind of like not becoming a trend, but kind of. It's just like they could have put the game away, and then ETN fumbles on like the 3-yard line as he's crazy in the end zone, and that could have sealed it essentially. But instead, the next play or 2 plays later or whatever, Tyreek is getting handcuffed by Jalen Waddle in the back of the end zone.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That was wild.
Speaking of, that was Tyreek had an 80-yard touchdown catch. He had 12 targets, 7 catches, 130 yards and a touchdown. Waddle was 5 for 5. He had 5 targets, caught all of them for 109 yards. Achane had 7 catches for 76 yards, which was amazing for a running back. He had 10 carries and only 24 yards. Did have a rushing touchdown, but on the ground wasn't doing as much as he was as a receiver. I think his long-term fantasy outlook looks really good if he's getting 7 catches in a game.
Yeah.
That all equated to Tua getting 338 yards. On the Jacksonville side, we mentioned before this, Tank Bigsby had 12 carries for 73 yards. So he had the same amount of carries as ETN and had a lot more yards. But, I mean, some of those, they're just wide open. You look at the rewatch the play that there's just a wide open hole. So, but at least he's not looking as bad as he has the last year. So, that was promising to see. And they do need someone to give ETN a break every now and then. So I don't think it's like bad for ETN, but it's good to see Bigsby playing decent. Yeah, Lawrence was only 12 of 21. 12 completed passes, kind of tough. But Brian Thomas got 4 of 4 for 47 yards and a touchdown. So he does look good. He looks solid.
He looks pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, just because there's so many great wide receivers in this draft class doesn't mean that Brian Thomas can't be a good wide receiver as well.
Yeah.
Just because he was the third one taken or whatever.
Yeah.
But
and he caught a lot of buzz at the end of training camp. Like his stock, I just felt like there's more and more chatter about him being good. So.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, like you said, that's a fun one. Moving on, we had Houston and Indianapolis. Houston ended up winning by 2, 29-27.
Another fun one.
Yeah, looking at win probability, Houston pretty much had it over 50% like the entire game. But yeah, I mean, the big story of the day was Richardson. I mean, that one throw I texted you as soon as it happened, it was just absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
He was slipping on the grass like everybody else was backing up, was getting run into by a lineman, and kind of like off his back foot, falling backwards, airmailed it like 60 yards.
Launches it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think why I was so surprised with it and why I like gasped when it happened was the receiver ran under it to catch it. Alec Pierce had to like run to catch up to it. I feel like 9 times out of 10 you see that pass and it's always underthrown. The receiver has to come
jump
back
ball
for it. Yeah, and it was just like, I mean, maybe it was lucky, but it was like absolutely on a dime, like 60 yard, at least 60 yards, like 65 in the air.
I think it was 65 and a half or something. I think they said it was.
Yeah,
nuts.
That was, I mean, that just makes you believe in the talent there. He only had 9 completions in the whole game.
That was the crazy part. I was going to bring that up. How many yards do you have?
212, but he had like 2 60-yarders to Pierce.
That's crazy.
But I mean, he also rushed 6 times for 56 yards and a touchdown. So rushing looked good for him there. I think his rushing took a little bit away from Jonathan Taylor, but game script wise, I think Taylor will be fine in the future. But they kind of hurt him in this one. I mean, Richardson just looks so fun. I just want him to pan out. I want there to be some more quick, short, intermediate stuff to get him rolling a little bit and just kind of pad the stats up. But yeah, just looking at the comparison, Richardson 9 of 19, and then the other side, Stroud is 24 of 32. Like, that's quite the difference.
Yeah. I will say though, because I had that was a game I had on the quad box also, and there were a few. I want to say 2 for sure. I don't know. I thought I heard 3. Somebody said 3. But there were a few misses that Richardson had that would have been touchdowns to A.D. Mitchell. That would have totally flipped like his score, and A.D. Mitchell. Like I think A.D. Mitchell had like 1 catch for 2 yards or something.
Yep.
But those like 2 misses would have been massive touchdowns, which would have flipped the stat line for both guys.
Yes, and I'm aware of that too, and I don't know to look at that in a positive or negative light. I personally am a little bit worried about that because it was an egregious miss, especially the one to A.D. Mitchell that would have been a touchdown. It was just way over his head, and it wasn't rushed, which is weird.
Yeah.
It's just one of those throws that Richardson has had since college where he just has weird things. He just has weird times when he just like is very inaccurate for no reason. It's not like he just misses by a little bit occasionally here and there, but it's like it's either like Watson on the dime or it's Deshaun Watson and it's bad. So I don't know. Yeah. He wasn't rushed. He was wide open. You saw the guy. He just threw it way too hard or way too far. Maybe he needs to get LASIK or something like Jameis did. I don't know.
Oh, that could be. I will say, though, it is like we can almost call it Anthony Richardson's rookie year in a way because of how much he didn't play last year. So hopefully that's the kind of stuff that he'll figure out as live game reps come. Yeah, the stat everyone likes to bring up with him is he's played like 14 games since high school or something, which is crazy. That is wild. I mean, he's so young. He's 21 yet, too. I mean, he's just so raw and talented. But yeah. But, I mean, that led to pretty poor performances in the wide receiver end. Pittman was 8 targets, 4 catches, 31 yards. Pierce obviously had the big day, but you can't count on that every week. A.D. Mitchell did have 5 targets, but only had the 2 yards because of that missed throw. Yeah. And then Texans, Nico looked good. 8 targets, 6 catches, 117. He had a big catch, and he's just solid. Yeah, I think Nico's the guy, like his go-to guy in the big moments. Obviously, Diggs had a couple of touchdowns, but like that 3rd and 11 that Stroud hit Nico on that out. Yes, that was a big boy throw. He got his knee down, right? That was the one where he just I watched it. I was like, that's not a catch.
And then they did the replay. I was like, holy crap, that was a catch.
And he had that deep shot to Nico, too.
Yep. That was huge. That was like a big play in the game, too. I think that would have been Indy ball after that if it didn't happen. Surprise of the week was the Patriots beating the Bengals 16-10. Bengals were 8.5-point favorites. Go ahead.
I was going to say, before we leave the Texans game, I was going to bring up Joe Mixon too.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Joe Mixon.
Yeah, Joe Mixon had a quite the day, and he looked good too.
Yeah,
he looked like a party.
30 carries, 159 yards and a touchdown.
That's a lot for an old man. And then I was going to say too on the Diggs touchdowns too. I don't know if there'll be any regression there. The one touchdown he had was like a pretty ridiculous. The safety was trying to cover him in the red zone from like the back of the end zone. It was pretty terrible. But I don't know, how many targets did Tank Dell have?
7.
I didn't see that.
Yep.
7.
It was 8, 7, and 6. So Nico had 8, Tank had 7, Diggs had 6. Which, I mean, if Diggs is okay with that for the whole year, then there'll be great things with the Texans. But man, if he starts complaining about not being the number one target guy or something, we'll see. I could definitely see something like that happen.
Yeah,
but yeah, pretty good distribution.
I just had to bring up at least Joe Mixon.
Yeah, totally forgot. Thanks for doing that. I forgot. He had 30 carries and did well with it. But yeah, Bengals, Patriots. Patriots went on the road to Cincinnati and stole it. Everybody knows Cincinnati doesn't play the best in week 1 or in September, really. But that was definitely a surprise. I know a lot of people's like survivor brackets got ruined by that. I mean, maybe we could have seen it coming with T. Higgins being out, Jamar really like holding out, and it's just kind of a weird thing. And Patriots have an okay defense.
Well, and it's a trend now, it seems like. At this point now for the Zach Taylor-led Bengals and Joe Burrow, it's just like, what they start last year, like their first 4 games was pretty rough, and then Joe Burrow got hurt. Like they just seemed to start pretty awful. I know it was I had a redraft league where 4th round, I passed on Cooper Kupp where I would have liked to have him. I took Sam Laporta. I took Sam Laporta in the 4th. It felt like good value. And then the next round, I took T. Higgins as my wide receiver too. And then, obviously, after this weekend, I was like, darn. But not going to overreact. It's week 1. But I was still like, stuff you think about. But, yeah, I'm not sure what these Bengals are about to look like and do. I don't know. Patriots just had a game plan and executed.
Yeah,
they went into Ohio and ate them Bengals up.
Yes, Stevenson had 25 carries, 120 yards, and a touchdown. Looked good on that end. For the Patriots, their leading target getter was KJ Osborne, followed by Austin Hooper. So it's just kind of a weird hodgepodge of receiving options in New England.
I want to see more. I want to see more from both teams. Let's see what you look like next week.
Yes, I agree with that. The only other thing I'll note before we move on is Zach Moss had 9 carries, Chase Brown had 3. So in terms of that backfield mix-up, I kind of thought Brown would be the guy. We'll see how it develops over time, but right now it seems that Moss is the starter and Brown is spelling him. So
also, Gesicki had like a pretty sweet touchdown that didn't count. So
why didn't it count? I forgot.
I don't know. I was watching Red Zone. I didn't get. I think there was a penalty on it. Okay. I think he like completed the catch, but there was a penalty. So
okay. But
yeah,
I remember watching that. I was like, it was a good catch. It was a good throw, good catch.
Yeah.
Taken back. That probably would have helped them win the game. But where am I looking for? Tennessee, Chicago. There we are. Couldn't find it. Yeah, we mentioned it earlier. This win-loss is crazy. I mean, it was 89% by the halftime. Quarter 4, 80%. And then Will Levis threw from his knee. There's just shovel pass from his knees 20 yards. I don't know why you'd try to shovel pass 20 yards, but
Brett Favre.
Yeah, they gave that one away. Caleb Williams had under 100 yards. That's going to really hurt the receiving options there. He'll get better obviously, but I don't trust rookie quarterbacks a lot to help the receiving options, so I was kind of out on receivers in Chicago to begin with for like redraft stuff, but Keenan Allen did have 11 targets. So
yeah, I think Keenan Allen's banged up. He's questionable. And then Rome Odunze also had an MRI, and he's got an MCL sprain. So I'll be curious to see what that looks like. I think DeAndre Swift looked kind of poor, or they used him poorly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of but yeah, the Will Levis shouldn't ate that mayo sandwich at halftime. Slippery hands.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That was bad.
I would say Bill Belichick was on the McAfee show earlier this week, and he said something along the lines of like that something that Brady used to say about was don't the pros and cons of trying to make a play. It's like, oh, the pro is you gain a few yards, and the con is you lose the game. And it's like, that's pretty true.
Exactly.
Well, what are you going to get out of that play?
I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if he was trying to throw it away or if he's actually trying to get to the player. I have no idea. I think he just panicked, which is not what you want to see.
No.
Last thing I'll mention is Tony Pollard had 16 carries, 82 yards, and a touchdown. Spears only had 4 for 21. So look like they're rolling with Pollard for now, but we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if that's game script.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's game script too. Like, because Pollard's more of the receiving back, but Pollard looked good though. Like he looked good. He looked sharp. So.
Yep. Yeah.
Unlike Tajay.
Yeah. Unlike Tajay. Arizona Buffalo won 34-28. Kind of a weird one there as well. I was curious to see how Josh Allen would do without Diggs and just with his receiving options he currently has. He ended 18 of 23, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns. I believe they said he only had 4 completions in like the first half or first quarter, something like that. So like it just started super slow. So it's just really weird how that all shook out. There was a ton of different distribution of targets. I'm looking at it right now. There's like 10 different guys who got targeted. The leader was Coleman. He had 4 catches for 51. He looked pretty good actually. His first game. He ran some good routes, did some good things against zone. So that's promising on his end. Shakir looked pretty good as well. Only got 3 targets, but got a touchdown. Kincaid was very quiet, but they took him away. It was much like the Andrews situation. If you go back and watch film on it, Kincaid was just getting doubled and tripled. At one point, he had 4 guys on him. So I think Arizona just decided they were taking Kincaid out of it. I have Kincaid in a redraft league, and he just disappointed me.
I do too.
Kyler Murray's favorite target was Greg Dortch, or I guess Trey McBride had 9 targets, Dortch had 8, but that was kind of a surprise. He came out of. There was a little bit of hype for Dortch, but I was not expecting that to happen. Everyone probably a little bit upset with Harrison only getting 3 targets for this 1 catch. Just a lot of weird things going on in that game. Yeah,
I will say too, the dynamic kickoff. I don't know if you saw it, but it was late in the game. Bills scored 31-20. The ensuing kickoff, the Cardinals take it back, and now all of a sudden it's 28. Sorry, it was 20. No, it was 28-31, and then the Bills went down. I think kicked field goal, and it was 34-28. I think that's how it went. But
Dallas.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too. I texted you the other day about some scoring stuff. This was one of the things I'm in our new dynasty league that we're a part of. I put it in the scoring. I told everybody to check the scoring. I don't know if anybody's paying any attention to what I say, but I brought up that I added or like kickoff return is like points are going to be had for kickoff returners, but I did decimal scoring, and it's 1 point per 25 yards for kickoff returns. So whatever, 0.005 or something like that, 004, and then 6 points for the touchdown. So I did see DJ Dallas had 10.5 points at the end of this week, and then Cavante, I think it's Cavante Turpin for the Cowboys. He had a punt return, but I have punt returns in there. I think punt returns are a point per 15 yards, and he had like 13 points this week. So kind of like a little case study that I'm running because I don't want to have fantasy football where we have a designated kick returner, but if we're in a super deep league, we're like in our league where we have to start 3 flex players, 2 receivers, 2 running backs, tight ends, whatever. I think it'd be cool to be able to throw in a premier kick returner in there as a weapon if you need some points. So
yeah, agreed.
I don't know. I thought that was pretty interesting. I thought the dynamic kick return over the weekend was actually relatively entertaining. There's like bullet kicks too. Like people were just letting them roll. So a lot of different strategy. It wasn't, just touchbacks.
Yeah, so. It was for sure fun to watch. I know there was a couple players in my roster I noticed in your league that got some points from kick returns. So that was pretty nice.
Nice. Yeah.
I don't remember who it was, but I got a couple of them. Yeah. So that was a fun one. I thought Kyler Murray looked good, rushed well.
It's hilarious. I cannot not think about it, but when you see him run with the football, it looks like a toddler that stole your phone.
Yes.
When I see it, I just can't unsee it. It's so funny.
He like runs with a stiff back. I don't know what it is, but he just just kind of waddles around. It is funny. Another ugly game this week was Pittsburgh Atlanta. You're wearing the jersey.
What?
Watt completely ruined this game for the Falcons. I
Yeah.
thought it was super interesting. After the game, he had mentioned that he had a tell that he knew when the snap count was, and even the one where he got called off sides where he wasn't off. I mean, he just like jumped it earlier than the other team did, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
He snapped the ball.
Yeah, he completely wrecked the game. But there is another note I wanted to mention with that is the Falcons were way too predictable. I don't know if you saw any of these stats, but they ran all of their snaps out of the gun or pistol. 100% of their snaps were gun or pistol. When they ran out of the gun, I think it was, they threw the ball 100% of the time. And when they ran out of the pistol, they ran the ball like 80% of the time.
Oh, jeez.
So if you do stuff like that, TJ Watt is just going to eat. Like
Yeah.
if you're in shotgun and he knows you're passing the ball, he just has such an advantage to try to rush the passer. Or in shotgun, he knows you're going to run it. I just thought that was like really stupid play calling, and I don't know. I'm assuming the Pittsburgh Steelers caught up on it. Like
Had to have.
they had to. I mean, they have so many stat guys and so many coaches. Like that's just such a stupid way to like give away a game. I
Especially
don't
week
understand why
one.
they did it.
You have to be
Yeah.
you should be the most prepared for week one, right?
Yeah, right.
Like
That
you
was
should be
just, that's like a game plan they came out with. Like they didn't
right.
they didn't mix up passes and runs depending on their formation, which is just that's unacceptable, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I think part of that was Kirk Cousins is not comfortable on his Achilles yet. That was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
He didn't do any under center. Everything was like I said, shotgun or pistol. He looks a little bit skittish and didn't look as good. So hopefully that gets a little bit better over time. He didn't have as much time to recover from his Achilles as Rodgers did, so it's probably just not. He's probably just not confident on it.
Yeah. Did not look good.
Yeah, so I think that's a big part of why they did pistol and shotgun. But yeah, you can't do 100% of your plays in one formation as a pass and 80% as a run in the other. That just doesn't
Yeah.
work. Stats wise, Justin Fields jumped in instead of Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was inactive and wore full pads, which I think
That
is
was hilarious.
hilarious. It's such a Russell Wilson thing to do. Technically, he was a reserve quarterback, so could have played if both the two starters ahead of him got hurt. But man, it looks pretty stupid for him to stand on the sideline and wear pads.
Yeah.
But Fields was 17 of 23, so did pretty well in that regard. 150 yards. I mean, just didn't push the envelope very much, but just kind of
Didn't turn the ball over.
didn't
That's
turn
all
it
they-
over, yeah, and ran 14 times, 57 yards. So he honestly did pretty well. I don't know. There was a lot of stuff that didn't look good with Fields. Like he does the same stuff where he holds the ball too long, misses wide open like first and second reads. Like he just hasn't figured it out yet, but is talented. So as long as they can kind of continue to work on getting him more involved in a pro style like system, and yeah, hopefully he just figures it out.
Yeah. Did you see the spray chart for his throws too? I don't think he threw anything inside the hashes.
Really?
Everything was outside. I'm fairly
Weird.
certain. I
Yeah.
looked at that. I think I looked at that last night or something, and I noticed like it was just outside only.
Huh.
But
Interesting.
I think Pittsburgh. I could be wrong, but somebody had that. And I'm fairly certain. If you're checking now, but
It makes sense because that's where Pickens lives. He doesn't go across the middle of the field, so
yeah.
it makes sense to me.
But
Um,
I do think too with I was going to say with Atlanta's offense, not to jump in,
yeah,
but
you're good.
Atlanta's offense. I was listening to Michael Lombardi. He was on the McAfee show, and he was talking about how the adjustment for Atlanta will also be with their offense and their offensive line specifically, because he said last year they ran more of a zone run, like that's what this. And now they're going to try and do drop back passing. So you've got a bunch of guys that are made for one scheme versus trying to do this other scheme. AQ Shipley was on the show too, I think yesterday, and he was talking about it as well. And he said that he had gone to other systems that ran a different style offense, and that was an offense that he got cut from because he couldn't do it.
Huh.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
something I'm curious to see, like
Yeah.
but also like what you're saying, like I don't understand why they didn't give that tackle any help with TJ Watt. Like that guy was a menace.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I think Pittsburgh, this is what Pittsburgh is going to do all season.
Yep.
Like play stout defense and don't turn the ball over. I think that's what they want to do.
Right.
So
Yeah. It was a perfect game for what Pittsburgh wanted to do, especially with Fields
yeah,
having to come in. For the Falcons, Ray McLeod had the most targets. He had 7 targets, 4 catches, 50 yards. Bijan looked good. He had 5 targets and catches for 43. He had 68 rushing on 18 attempts. So, I mean, that's only 3.8 a carry, but he's definitely more involved now. And I think in a better game, will score a lot of points. London was only 3 for 2 for 15 yards.
that killed me.
I mean, yeah, obviously before the season, I've told you Olave and
You're
London are
yeah,
my guys, and they just did not. They both had 2 catches, so.
yeah. I had
Nice.
London. London is my wide receiver 1, I think, in my work league.
Ugh.
And when I took him, I was like, honestly, London and Olave are both guys that I was just like, I'd hit.
Yeah.
I don't have any Olave in any leagues, but I drafted London. And I was like, please don't let me down.
Yeah, I was very disappointed to see that.
Mhm.
I'm a little worried with how Kirk Cousins looks in there, but I hope they figure some stuff out and just get him more targets. Usually, there's like when stuff like this happens, week 1 or 2 or whatever, they'll come back and get them more involved on
Yeah,
purpose. So I
yeah,
think
yeah.
there'll be
It'll
bounce back
balance out.
stats. Yeah, it'll
Week 1.
balance. Yep,
Mhm. Except for, I mean, Atlanta plays Philly next week, so good luck.
that's true.
Nick Foles is the honorary team captain,
Oh, really?
and we're retiring Nick Foles' jersey at halftime. So Atlanta, Kirk
Nice.
Cousins is about to be eating grass. For careful.
Oh, that's why I couldn't find him. I was looking for the Denver game. They just had a blue background. I was looking for an orange one.
Mm.
Yeah, next one, Denver, Seattle. Seattle wins 26-20. Kind of a weird game. Bo Nix did not look good. I'm surprised. He had 42 pass attempts. Only ended
I
with
didn't know
138
that.
yards. Yeah.
Holy.
42 pass attempts for a rookie's first game. Had 138 yards, 2 picks, no touchdowns. Yeah.
What was his average depth of throw, though? I did hear that.
Um,
It was like 3 yards or something.
let's see if I can find it.
Because I did hear that too. I did hear that his, like, basically, I think it was on, I was listening to Rich Eisen's show. Chris Long was on there and they were talking about it. And, like, all of his throws were just checkdowns,
Yeah,
checkdowns,
I think they
checkdowns.
were all. I think it was like less than 2 yards was that.
Yeah. And then when he did throw it downfield, I know he had that interception. Julian Love came up with an interception on him. But that's a tough place to go, though, as a rookie. To go into Seattle as your first game, it's a tough place to go.
Yeah. Okay. Here's one stat that's kind of related to that. He completed 21 of 27 passes under 10 air yards for 75
Yeah.
yards. And air yards, does air yards is that like actual field yards or is that just like 10 yards to the left or right? I think that's 10 yards of the field, right?
I
Air
think air
yards.
yards, I believe air yards is like actually thrown, like,
Oh, really?
I think.
Something like that.
I believe so.
Um,
Like the ball is in the air for that many yards.
yeah. They don't have
Actually,
a dot in here, I don't think.
I have the glossary pulled up right here for next gen stats.
Do you? Nice, because I don't.
Uh, Passing stats. Average air yard differential. Air yards to the sticks. Completion probability. Average completed air yards. And average intended air yards. What is the are you looking at next gen?
I do have NFL Pro up. They have deep pass percentage. I don't know if that correlates, but they don't have like a dot for quarterback.
Yeah. Let me see what his Anthony Richardson, his sorry, we're getting off topic, but that's okay. We can
That's
chop
right.
it up. Average completed air yards for Anthony
Oh
Richardson
God.
was 17.3.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What
Uh,
do you have?
oh,
9 completions and 2 over 60
yeah.
yards. That works.
Bo Nix, his average completed air yards were 2.5, which was not the worst. Jaden Daniels was the worst at 1.6.
Yeah. Daniels had a weird game too.
Average intended air yard what? Bo Nix wasn't the last one. It was a 6.1.
Wow.
Air yard differential
What
negative.
is what's EPA again? Is that expected points added or something?
Yeah, that
I
sounds
forget.
right.
Okay, I forget what it is. They have that in here.
Aggressive.
Huh.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah,
Anywho.
he was checking it down. Bo Nix was
Yes.
checking it down.
That's I mean that's what he did in the preseason too, but yeah, there was a lot more of
Yeah,
that in the regular season.
yeah. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Which are you getting to the rushing stats?
You can jump in if you got them.
I was just gonna ask you how you feel about your boy Javonte Williams.
Yeah, there was more. There was a lot of a split there. Javante had less carries actually than Jaleel. I think, honestly, over the course of the season, Javante will get more, but yeah, I obviously not super promising to see that.
Yeah,
I mean, he
still
averaged, yeah, he was 8 for 23. That's a 2.9 average. Jaleel got 10 for 27. Yeah, it is still early. I believe in him, and Estime was also just placed on IR
Yep.
for
saw that.
so. I think Javante will bounce back. That was just such a weird game, and I think
Yeah.
Jaleel is in there a lot for pass catching. So we'll see
Mm-hmm.
if any game script allows them to run. I think Jaleel or Javante will be in more. But
Mm-hmm.
on the other end, rushing, Ken Walker had 20 carries, 100 yards, and a touchdown. 2 catches for 6 yards, so not much in the receiving game, but looks really good as a runner. Looks strong. Charbonnet had 8 carries for 12, so didn't like bother Kenneth Walker as much, and then did catch 2 passes though for 30 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, I thought Walker looked good. I know you were kind of like iffy on Walker coming into this year, so do you have any thoughts
Well,
on Seattle backfield?
yeah. I mean, I definitely when I was watching him run, I was like, I feel like that's what I saw from him last year, which fires me up.
Yeah.
But he's got an oblique injury.
Oh yeah,
He
that
might
looked
not
bad.
play. He might not play this week, and that's what he had last year. He's had oblique injuries in the past, and that's kind of where I was like, move, like I'm willing to move on him.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's like where I've the thought of trading Achan has been in my head too, because the guy
Yeah.
seems to be injured. But the upside for Achan is freaking 30 points, whereas Kenneth Walker has to work for
Yeah.
his he can't just he's not going to pop one for 90
Yeah.
yards at any given moment or whatever. So
Yep.
that's kind of where my difference is on the big play, the explosives. Like
Yeah.
Ken Walker can bust one out, but yeah, I don't know. I think Kenneth Walker's good player, but it's the injury thing and just like he runs hard. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, he runs very hard for his size. He's smaller than I thought he was, honestly.
Mhm.
But yeah, that can lead to a lot of injuries. Like
Yeah,
Achan at least is very like fast and quick, but like doesn't try to initiate contact. I feel like Walker
Yeah.
like really is into
seeks it
that.
out.
Yeah.
He's into that.
Lockett 7 targets, 6 catches, 77 yards. Kind of a guy people are forgetting about in fantasy a little bit, but had a good
Seriously.
game. DK was only 4 for 3, 29 yards. JSN 2 for 2 for 19. So it's a weird passing game all around. Gino had 25 attempts, so I don't know. Maybe that'll go up a little bit.
Yeah, he had a rushing touchdown too, kind of a long one. That was weird.
Yeah, he had 4 carries for 30 yards and a rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
Next is Vegas and Los Angeles Chargers 10-22. That was kind of
Weird.
a strange game as well.
Yeah.
I guess for the Chargers, it kind of played out how you expect Chargers games to go this year. Herbert only passed 26 times, 140 yards and a touchdown. Dobbins and Edwards split the work, 10 and 11 carries. Dobbins, like we were hoping, looked really good with 135 yards and a touchdown. Edwards only had 26. Yeah, 10 carries, 135 and a touchdown. Edwards had 11 carries for 26. So obviously it's not going to be that good the whole year, but he did look good, which is promising.
You could see on those long carries from Dobbins you could see
He's slow.
he just like tucks the ball with 2 hands and he's like, all right.
Yeah, honestly, when he was trying to break away from people, I was like, he doesn't really look like an NFL running back. He's just kind of like a little too slow. But I mean, maybe it's like the quickness and the cutting and the vision is kind of his strong suit anyway. But
he did. Again, I keep going back to it. I watch McAfee show every day, basically. But Dobbins was on the McAfee show this week. And that dude is hilarious. He is a really funny guy. He's like an infectious personality. But he was making fun of himself, and he was like, "Man," he's like, I know I should have had 50, 60 more yards. He's like, I need to get. He's talking about getting on the tread, like on the bike.
Really?
And he's like, I need to work on my speed. Like he wants to get his speed up. So I
That's
don't
good.
know how that'll translate, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah, that is funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but promising. I drafted him as a late round running back in my redraft because
Perfect.
I was like out on running backs. I had Achane and no one else, so I kind of had a zero RB strategy. So kind of got lucky with him. I'm hopefully going to start him and hope he plays well again.
Yeah.
Receiving wise, Lad McConkey led the Chargers with 7 targets, 5 catches, 39 yards and a touchdown. So that was good for him. Quentin Johnson had 5 targets, 38 yards on
No
3
drops.
catches, no drops. Josh Palmer only had 4 targets for 2 catches, 15 yards. I was hoping for more from Palmer, but I mean, there's just not 26 attempts for Herbert. It's not enough to go around when
Yeah.
the running backs alone got 5 targets. So, yeah, there's just not going to be passing volume in Los Angeles this year. It's going to be hard to start pass catchers.
Yep.
Very touchdown dependent. On the Raiders side, Devontae had 6 targets, 5 catches, 59 yards. Brock Bowers actually had 8 targets, 6 catches, 58 yards, which is pretty unheard of for like a tight end debut.
Right.
For anybody who's worried about him like not being able to break out right away, I mean, we'll see more of it hopefully, but I think he's ready to break out the first year, which is kind of weird for a tight end.
Mm-hmm. Sam Laporta laid the groundwork.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Bowers just looks so good. Like, I mean, he out targeted Devontae Adams in his first NFL game, which is, I mean, maybe a game plan thing, but pretty unbelievable. Washington, Tampa Bay. You mentioned Jaden Daniels. He looked great running. Did not look great as a passer, but was 17 of 24 for 184. So they weren't horrible stats, but yeah, the ADOT was low. So I don't know. Do you have anything you want to say about that before I jump into numbers?
I added like Jaden Daniels in my work redraft is my quarterback. I grabbed him part of the strategy, and so I was happy with the rushing. Let's stay healthy and let's just keep giving me those numbers. That was kind of all I had. I didn't watch the game too much. I was more box. I was looking at a couple other games on the quad box. Red Zone filled me in, but there wasn't much going on. One of the numbers I was going to say, I guess you were going to get to stats, but getting into receivers, Terry McLaurin, he lined up primarily on one side of the field and had a pretty terrible game.
Awful.
I guess that's Cliff Kingsbury for you. That's what he does. So
yeah,
I traded him in a dynasty. At the draft, we had a rookie draft, and I traded him for a 3rd round. And again, it's 7 rounds, so it's value's a little bit different when you draft defensive players. And I was kind of feeling crummy about it, honestly, because I was like, man, they got Jaden Daniels. Then I flipped that 3rd and got Jermaine Burton and a 2nd for next year. So I was like, you know what, Jermaine Burton and a 2nd for Terry McLaurin. I feel cool about that. So
how'd you get a wide receiver and a 2nd for a 3rd?
So I should tell you the pick I traded for McLaurin was 306, and then I traded up to it was 303, and then the guy that wanted 303 gave me a 2nd, next year's 2nd.
I see.
And then I moved back to 306.
Okay.
And then I got Jermaine Burton, so it wasn't like exact, but
yeah. I got you.
How I unfolded it,
Yeah.
But either way though, Terry McLaurin, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, that's the pass catching option's not going to be good in Washington for a while. I was hoping Terry McLaurin would get more deep targets from Daniels because that's kind of like what he does. I think that'll get better throughout the year, but yeah, it was pretty rough this first week. It's going to be hard to start him until you see some of that down the field action for him. But yeah, Daniels 88 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns is really hard to beat for a quarterback. On the other end, though, Baker Mayfield, one of those ex-Panther quarterbacks, 24 of 30, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns, 146 passer rating. He just looks so good. I mean, with Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, just he has the weapons there. They believe in him. He's Baker, so he's confident and he's throwing it where he wants to, and it looks really good. I feel good about Tampa Bay pass catching options, and Baker himself is looking like a very viable quarterback so far.
Yeah, Chris Godwin's back, right?
Yep.
8 for 89, Tud.
Yep. I will say though, the Washington secondary is pretty horrible. So,
they're bad, and they just lost Emmanuel Forbes, which is it a loss? I don't know. He's kind of poor anyway, but I was gonna actually bring up their secondary because that's what worries me for Jaden Daniels is these game scripts. I don't know, like, are they gonna get down and like is it going to turn into him dropping back and then
Well,
running all over the place and
yeah,
then doing
that's
the
what I was gonna.
Justin Fields,
That's what
or
I
is
was
it
gonna
going to
say.
be like he's going to try and force these passes down the field? So
That's
that's
what I
what
was
I'll
gonna
be
say.
curious.
I could easily see them down a couple touchdowns in many games, and they're gonna go 4 wide, and no one's gonna get open, and
He's
he's
just
gonna
going to run
scramble. Yeah.
30 yards, you
Yep.
know.
I don't think
Yep.
this will be. I think he'll probably get
Yeah.
75 rushing yards again this year.
Yep.
Um,
This week.
yeah.
Yep.
Brian Robinson was okay. He had 12 carries, 40 yards, and a touchdown. Also got involved as a pass catcher. He had 4 targets, 3 catches, 50 yards. So he looked pretty solid there. Um, Eckler didn't challenge him too much. Eckler only had 2 carries for 10 yards, and I guess he had 4 targets for 50 yards. So when they do pass, they're involving the running backs. They're by far the highest
Yeah.
targeted, 7 or
Yeah.
8 targets alone to them. For the Buccaneers, Rashad White had 15 for 31, so really bad in the ground, but got a ton in the air. He got 6 targets for 75 yards. Bucky Irving looked good on the ground. 9 carries, 62 yards for his first game. Looked really solid. Also caught 2 passes for 14 yards. So he's someone I picked up in a dynasty, and I'm excited about how that plays out because I think he does a lot of really good things as well, and I think Tampa Bay could end up using him this year.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would say I'll just add one thing too. Keep an eye out on those Washington running backs, because if it does tilt where it's Washington's down by 25 points, it's going to be either Jaden Daniels running or one of those running backs catching.
Yeah, that's what it seems like for sure. Yep.
Yeah. So
Agreed.
even if you're just doing for daily, DraftKings or something like that, it might be something.
Yeah. Getting toward the end, Dallas-Cleveland. Dallas wins 33-17. Cleveland looks bad. Deshaun Watson still looks bad.
Terrible.
I don't know if it's ever going to come for him. He was 25-45, 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. I had Amari Cooper in my redraft league. He had 9 targets and got 2 catches for 16 yards.
He did drop a touchdown though. He's got to help Deshaun out. It hit off his fingers. It could have been a little bit better throw, but that bummed me out. I watched that and I was like, dude, save your day, please. Give me something. I have him too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, rough. Very rough. That Deshaun trade and the money they sunk into him. I've heard some people already whisper Jameis Winston's name, so we'll see.
Oh, I feel like week 1 is like you shouldn't overreact and stuff like that, but like Deshaun looked.
It's hard because he just looks so bad, and Cleveland, other than him, has a really good team.
Yeah, I understand their offensive line though. They're missing both their starting tackles this week, so that's where I'm like, all right, let's.
Yeah.
I'll pump the brakes for myself here. I'll not fully, but that did not look very good.
It did not. No. They also just signed Kadarius Toney the other day.
Weapon.
So yeah, we'll see. That makes me feel like I can drop Cedric Tillman now, though.
Yeah, I have him on one of my practice squads.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
For Dallas, Zeke had 10 carries, Dowdle had 8, so they kind of split that evenly. On the Cleveland side, Jerome Ford had 12 for 44 and a touchdown. I don't know. Anything else?
I don't know. I think Dallas looked good, but they also they didn't have to do much. That's not a shot at Dallas.
Yeah.
They were definitely I think Cleveland's defense put Dallas in a couple of situations. If Cleveland's offense was anything, worth anything, if they were able to do anything, it would have been a little bit closer of a game. But Dak got paid $60 million right before kickoff, which was kind of wild.
That was wild.
Just not the contract, but just the contract's wild in itself, but just the timing of it is 10 minutes before kickoff. But I don't know. CeeDee Lamb got 3 carries, 4 carries or something like that.
Yep.
I just think Dallas looked good, but I think it was more on Cleveland's defense looked good. I'm worried about them in fantasy matchups, but that they're not going to hold up if that offense isn't going to put any points. The Cleveland offense looked like they were just throughout the entire game. It just felt like each drive was all right, boys, let's restart here. This is our first drive of training camp together, and down by 20 points, and they're just handoff and just a little, I don't know.
Yeah,
and Dallas's defense flies around and does pretty good too. So Micah Parsons is causing problems, and I don't know.
Yeah, Dax was 4 years, $60 million per year for that contract.
Yeah.
So
Which
got paid.
CJ Stroud's gonna get $70 million a year.
Oh
What?
my gosh, yeah, probably
Yeah.
at least
Mhm.
65.
Yeah.
The LA Rams in Detroit. Detroit wins 26-20. Puka got injured early. He had 4 targets by the time he got injured for 4 catches, 35 yards. And then because he was out, Cooper Kupp got 21 targets.
Nuts.
21 targets, 14 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown. In my redraft, I took him in the 3rd. He was projected to go in the 4th. But yeah, I mean, even without the Puka injury, though, he already looked good before Puka got injured, and he looked like Stafford's first target still. So trying to kind of not let the injury bias what I'm thinking, but I think Kupp was looking good either way in my mind.
I had I drafted in my one league I drafted it was CMC in round 1 and then in round with 101 and then I think I had Puka Nacua round 2 or round the swing or something like that. So
yeah,
it was kind of a tough weekend for me,
that
but
is hard. Yeah,
I was able to pick up Jordan Mason, so there's something
there you go.
to it.
That helps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kyron had 18 carries, 50 yards, a touchdown. For the wide receivers, once Puka was out, Tyler Johnson had 7 targets, 5 catches, 80 yards. He was a big pickup for people. It's Tyler Johnson, right?
Yeah, Minnesota.
Yep. And then Demarcus Robinson, another big pickup. He had 7 targets, 4 catches, 40 yards. On the Lions side, surprisingly, Jameson had 9 targets, 5 catches, 120 yards, touchdown. Looked good. So finally, there's some Jameson Williams hype that's paying off. Looked good. But Amon-Ra only had 3 catches for 13 yards. That was tough for anybody having him. Laporta had like an okay week for a tight end, 4 catches, 45 yards. I mean, honestly, that was like, I think, top 10.
But Kyle Pitts was the highest scoring tight end, I think, this weekend. And
he was the highest scoring of the first like 12 tight ends that would be drafted.
Gotcha.
But I think there were some people who scored higher than him. Nice. Montgomery, 17 carries, 90 yards. Gibbs, 11 carries, 40 yards. They each got a rushing touchdown.
I will say, though, sorry to cut you off there. I would say put an asterisk kind of next to Montgomery, though, because he got
all in the last drive.
That wasn't overtime. No, that was overtime.
It was the final drive of the 4th quarter, I think. Or no, it was overtime. Yeah,
it was overtime.
Yeah, it was
overtime. So he got like 7 or 8 of those carries and
That's
that touchdown on the final drive. So
that's
just
true.
something.
It was like split. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Gibbs got most of the work in the 4th quarter, so just something to keep in mind.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good call out for sure. I think that's
what was Gibbs' line? Gibbs
had 11 carries, 40 yards, and a touchdown, and then he had 6 targets, 4 catches, 34 yards.
Nice. Yeah.
So he was definitely solid.
Yep.
And then we're recording Thursday, so Monday night, Jets played the 49ers. Obviously, the big news is McCaffrey is scratched right before the game. I made a TikTok video right after that happened, and they interviewed Jordan Mason and was like, yeah, they told me Friday night, and that became a big issue. As soon as he said that, I was like, oh, shit, someone's going to be in trouble for that.
Yeah, for sure.
But Mason played really well.
Yeah, he looked good.
He is someone that, I mean, McCaffrey's dealing with Achilles tendonitis and also has like a calf injury and stuff. Like, this could be a really tough year for Christian McCaffrey. And if Jordan Mason is playing this well, he might be someone to kind of like lock into for the whole season.
Yeah.
20 carries.
Okay, so I have 2 things to say. So I had the 101 in just a redraft 10-team league, a fun league with friends, no money. It's just a league I've been doing. And I legitimately talked about, and I have receipts, taking Saquon Barkley 101. And then I even, like, on Twitter, I responded to somebody and said, who says Barkley can't be the 101? That was on August 24th. And, somebody responded and said anybody with sense would. I was like, I mean, that's kind of why I ended up taking McCaffrey 101, because I was like, look, I'll be a damn fool if, I don't take McCaffrey here. But I was like, and then in my work league, I had the 4th pick and I took Breece Hall. But again, thought about Saquon Barkley. Just I'm really confident in the situation in Philly. Yeah, but I did get Jordan Mason. I've got Jordan Mason in 4 of my 6 leagues, including couple of dynasty leagues. So I grabbed, and this is a note for people, especially redraft people, if you have empty bench spots, fill them. I added Jordan Mason on Sunday afternoon at 4:30
Nice.
because I had an empty bench spot. And actually, the guy that I added him was like relatively high up at our company. I've never met him. He came around work today or whatever, and he came and he's like, "Are you Marcus?" I said, "Yeah." I'm pissed at you. He's like, "What are you doing grabbing Jordan Mason at 4:30 on Sunday?" He's
That's
like, "I had
funny.
to start." Who's Garendo?
Garendo, yeah. Nothing.
Yeah, he's like, "I had to start him, and he got me nothing." And I was like,
Oh my gosh.
"Sorry about it. Had an empty bench spot. I got to fill
That's
it."
hilarious, yeah.
Yeah, my sales rep was like, he said this like he was saying this not like as in like I showed this guy up or anything, but he's like, do you know who that is? And I was like, I'm kind of familiar. He's like, oh, he's pretty high up. And I said, listen, when it comes to fantasy football, anybody can get it. Like, I don't care.
That's funny.
But yeah, just a note. Yeah, I think Jordan Mason looked good. And clearly, San Francisco doesn't need Christian McCaffrey.
It's nice to have him, but they just don't need him.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too, though. Like what your point is he looked so good. He had 20. Jared Mason. Why would they play McCaffrey? Save him.
Same for the playoffs. Let him come in and
save him
split
for
the
real
work.
life.
Don't. I mean, I think that is enough to have them say we're not going to run McCaffrey to the ground. Like we're not going to give him 30 touches a game like last year. Like if we have a guy that can help us, like let's not risk it. Let's split
and
the
I think
workload
from a
even when he's
fantasy
back.
standpoint. I think from a fantasy standpoint, like Mason looked good too. Like he didn't look, and he had a touchdown that like he got one touchdown right, but he had one that was called back on a hold or whatever. There's a lot of ill-advised plays, but I think that'll be interesting. I'm not upset about. I don't know. It is what it is, but I think I'd be more bummed out in my redraft if I didn't have Jordan Mason because I just feel like I can just put Jordan Mason in there and get the same results almost, which is kind of crazy to say.
Yes. Yeah, that worked out well. If you have Mason, if you have McCaffrey and you get Mason, that's saves your day.
Yeah. I think that's something to think about too with other backfields and other situations and like Bucky Irving going back if he's still a free agent and any redrafts, like it's worth adding him or
he could be huge.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some other players, but like Superflex. In our dynasty, I have Carson Wentz on my taxi squad because if Patrick Mahomes goes down, I like Carson Wentz and an Andy Reid offense and a super flex. Like there's potential value there. So just stuff to consider, I guess.
Yep. They gave Debo 8 carries. He got 23 yards. He also had 9 targets for 5 catches, 50 yards. Jawan Jennings, 5 targets, 5 catches, 64 yards. Ayuk, people are freaking out a little bit about Ayuk. He had 5 targets, 2 catches, 28 yards. I know there's like some injury he's dealing with a little bit, so they had already planned. Well, that's why I don't know what it is, but I heard that he was nursing something, and that's why they weren't playing him as much. Like he wasn't on the field as much for one.
Yeah.
So
I just thought that was the holdout deal. He also did drop a touchdown.
Yeah. No, I don't even know what injury it is, but I heard somebody say that it was expected that he was playing less.
Huh.
I guess not expected to us, but maybe beat writers or something.
Yeah. That's fair.
So I think he'll bounce back a little bit. Yeah.
Week 1.
Jets, Garrett Wilson had 11 targets, 6 catches, 60 yards. Lazard had 9 targets, 6 catches, 89 yards. So Lazard was someone I tried to get last year and has just kind of soured on him since then. But yeah, with Rodgers, I guess that's one of his guys. He had 2 touchdowns. So
I'll add a note to Lazard just to put a pin in just to pay attention type of look is the 1 touchdown he had was on a jump off sides free play.
How long was that? That was 30 yards?
That was long, yeah. And then the other touchdown I believe came from Tyrod Taylor. Yes. Rodgers was out of the game. So
good point.
Not saying that
I just saw he was a big waiver wire pickup, but yeah, that is a very, very good
Not saying not to, but I would just say sniff around. I think Mike Williams might get worked in. But,
yes, he was nursing injury as well. So
I think that's been his entire career.
Yes, exactly.
So that's where having Lazard isn't a bad idea because Mike Williams.
Yep.
We'll see. So.
Breece Hall, 16 carries, 50 yards, 54 yards, touchdown. He had 6 targets, 5 catches, 39 yards. He's going to be very, very involved so long as Aaron Rodgers does not feel comfortable with his Achilles.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is one of the things I made the TikTok about is Rodgers does not. He looks very skittish, which is, maybe to be expected, but he is getting the ball out so quick. For somebody who's watched the Packers and watched Rodgers his entire career, man, he's scared and he's skittish and he doesn't want to get hit. He didn't get hit the whole game. He was just getting rid of the ball so quick. And when
Yeah.
he was scrambling, he was not looking downfield like he normally does to make a big play. He's looking over his shoulder like every second.
Yeah.
I hope he gets hit and that like realigns him.
Hmm.
But I'm a little bit scared with how timid he seemed.
Yeah.
Still, obviously, one of the best Jets quarterback performances there's been in a while. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's
He's still.
there's hope there. But yeah,
Yeah. That arm's still pretty lively too.
the
Like
arm's still there. The mentality
that-
is still there. I mean,
Yeah.
the checks
Yeah,
at
that
the
one
line.
throw to-
Yeah,
that one throw to Garrett Wilson was pretty nice on like third down. It was just like I kind of grinned. I was like, man, that was nice. That was
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers.
did you see?
I wonder too, like with it, is like how much the Achilles injury aged him. Like obviously he's going to be 40
Yeah,
or is 40 or whatever. But yeah, he did look. It looked different for sure. Like
he's
it just looked,
he's terrified to take a hit. I don't blame him. Like if I tore my
Yeah.
Achilles playing football, I'd be very scared for like these
Yeah.
big 300-pound guys to
Yeah.
drive me into the dirt.
yeah. I think he got sacked. I think he did get sacked once or twice. I did see him get
Okay.
hit a few times, but he didn't get hit. You know, he got.
Yeah.
You know, it was just kind of like. But yeah, I'll be curious. I also saw like his stat or his throwing spray chart or whatever, and he was throwing like almost always to the left, which I thought was kind of interesting. Quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, which is Garrett Wilson. So they just were force feeding Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall. So I don't know. I know Xavier Gibson was on the field quite a bit.
Yep.
But I don't think he had a single target. But
No. No, all of the targets were Lazard, Wilson, Brees Hall. And then, like, the last drive was Braylon Allen, Tyler Conklin got some. But before that,
from Tyrod Taylor.
yes, Rodgers
Yep.
only threw to Lazard, Wilson, and Hall the entire game.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. I think they have. I feel like they have a decent matchup coming up, though. But
Yeah. Not sure. They'll figure it out. They'll look better. I just hope over the season Rodgers feels better because you can tell he still has it. He just got to get the mentality straight.
yeah,
He's not got to be not scared, I think. But otherwise, pretty promising. And 49ers dominated like they always do. They looked great.
hmm
Not much to say on that end.
yeah. I'll be curious to see what the Niners and Vikings look like next week. I'm just hoping healthy Sam Darnold coming out of next week.
Yep, pray. All right. Sweet. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, listening. We'll catch you in the next one. We're going to go watch some Thursday Night Football. Peace.